Good morning, everybody. We want to welcome you today to the Lightspeed webinar, where we're going to focus on simplifying your multi-locations. We know so many of our dealers have multiple stores, and that can be a challenging business situation. So with Lightspeed, we continue to add a lot of new functionality that really makes it easier for you to be more efficient and streamline some of those processes between your stores, whether they're in the same state or across the US or Canada. With that, we're going to talk about some of our housekeeping. I appreciate so many of you that have joined our webinar many times and you're very familiar with it. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see that there's a Q&A button. And Brian, if you want to just advance to the next slide too.
Well, sadly, Diana, I did not prepare that slide, so
Good.
we're going to have to describe it as though
I
we
will
did.
just describe it. Thanks, Brian. No, just a reminder, please do ask questions throughout the webinar. There's a little button at the bottom of your screen that says Q&A. So type in questions anytime you think of them throughout the webinar. We're also going to allow time at the end of today's webinar to answer some more questions. And you'll also see our panelists. We've got Brian, Quentin, and Vaughn will be answering questions throughout the webinar. And with that, I'll actually turn it over and let our panelists and presenters do a bit of an introduction. So I'm actually going to start with Vaughn. We'll put him on the spot, even though he's not on a photo here. And Vaughn, if you want to just give a short introduction to our attendees today.
Yeah, hi. I'm Vaughn Anderson. I'm on the product team here at Lightspeed. So I've been with Lightspeed for like 24 years. And yeah, so I work closely with our development team and building features. And so excited to be here today. Thanks for letting me join.
Thanks, Vaughn. And then we'll do Quentin.
Yeah, hi, I'm Quentin. I'm the product marketing manager here at Lightspeed. I've been here at Lightspeed for 2 years now, going on 3 in April. I came over from support training and moved over into marketing, really loving it, being able to be part of the product and communicating all the value that we have there.
Perfect. Thanks, Quentin. And last, Brian.
Well, thanks for the introduction, Diana, and thanks for joining me, Quentin and Vaughn, this morning. I certainly appreciate everybody being on the call with me today. And my name is Brian Tierney. I'm the software solutions consultant or sales engineer with Lightspeed. Coming to you with about 30 years Lightspeed experience, 16 years working in a dealership, parts service sales, a little bit of bookkeeping, and now just about 15 years with the Lightspeed organization, doing anything from sweeping the floors to product demonstrations and webinars like this. So again, thanks for having us today, folks. So with that, a little bit of an introduction for what we're going to talk about in today's presentation. I know everybody's attending to learn about the new multi-store features and capabilities within Lightspeed. Some of the tried and true methods that you're used to using, like part locator, some of the shared accounting functionality, we're going to talk about some of those things as well. But really just to introduce and kick off the subject for today, the idea of technology and modernizing things, streamlining things inside your business and also in the Lightspeed dealer management solution is really what we're talking about today. How do we take all of the things that we've applied to the multi-store capability tools and create efficiency in your business and also create a better customer experience for the customers that are coming to do business with you every day? And we're going to talk about what some of those things are. And as we look through the agenda, just to give you a list and a rundown of what we're going to cover, we're going to talk about the tried and true tools like major unit availability and transfer, some of those things you might be using today. Part and warehouse locator, one of my favorite elements of Lightspeed. And I was a parts guy for 16 years, so it's near and dear to my heart. I love the locator. We'll talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about shared financials, accounts receivable, customer lists, and all the things accounting related to shared financials. And then we're going to introduce some of the new capabilities, our cross-location lead management tools, being able to see where the leads came from and being able to reassociate leads to the proper stores. Standard job transfer, something we've been asked for many, many years. It's here, folks. We finally have it. And part inventory transfer is another thing that we've been asked for many, many years. Yes, it's here. We finally have that too. And then we'll talk about a couple of things to wrap things up and, of course, take some questions and offer some answers to those as we wrap things up for today. But again, let's go ahead and get started with major unit availability and transfer. And really, what does that mean? Well, if you imagine you've got multiple locations, which I'm guessing most of you on the call today are here because you do, you might have inventory in store A, the one that you're physically in, and maybe you want to be able to see what's in store B, store C, or store D if you're lucky enough to have that many locations. And not only do you want to see what's available in those other stores, but perhaps you even want to generate a quote, maybe start the ball rolling on selling something that's not physically on your premises. Well, major unit visibility gives you the ability to do those things. And at the end of the day, when it's time to move that unit from one of the locations, there's a transfer function that allows you to not only physically move things by a human being pulling the item with a truck or trailer, for example, but also in a digital sense inside of Lightspeed, move that inventory from one store to the next. So let's take a look and refamiliarize everybody with what that means. So let's jump into Lightspeed here. We're going to go to begin with inside of sales, and we're going to go into major unit inquiry. And just to delineate that from inventory, because they sound very similar, let's start in the inquiry screen. Inquiry allows me to see what's available in the particular store that I'm looking at and what's available in my sister stores or my alternative locations. And I'll get to the meat and potatoes in a moment. First of all, just to explain the screen, I can see a series of columns describing the in-inventory products, the trade products, the on-order products. What store is that unit located in? Stock number, year, make, model, VIN number, maybe some pricing. And sometimes I'll get questions about what's that little green dot there, Mr. Tierney, on the inquiry screen? Well, that's an indication because it's in the P&L column, not profit and loss, parts and labor. If I double click on that line, the green indicator allows me to see what parts, what labor lines, what items are sold to that unit as a reflection of what's in the inventory record. So I can quickly preview those things by double clicking on the item. Another item of note as we're looking at this screen is the little hold column, which in my case has a series of padlock icons indicating that that unit's on hold. Why would it be listed on hold? Well, because somebody's put a deposit on that unit on a sales deal somewhere. So we know we can't sell it out from under that person. At least we hope not, right? That's kind of the key. But anyway, getting to the point. On my list screen, I've got a column depicting LSPS, which is Lightspeed Power Sports. That's one of my stores. But if I'm looking in, maybe I want to see in one of my sister stores, is there a Honda available? So I'm going to use a filter at the top of the screen to search for Hondas, just for example. Could be any make, could be any model, could be any color, year, whatever I'm looking for. But for now, we're looking for a Honda. And in the store column, I can see, yeah, there's a few Hondas in the LS Power Sports store. There's, in fact, that's what I'm looking at on the screen now. And if I go over to the top right side of the screen, notice there's a little store drop-down menu. And if I want to see, is there a Honda in one of my other locations? Well, I can pick the other location, the alternative store, Lightspeed Power Sports 2. Is there Hondas there too? Yes, indeed there is. In fact, if I want to see both stores combined, let's select all. And I can see all of the Hondas. Matter of fact, I've got some in my marine location, my RV location, and my Power Sports 2 location, showing me every single Honda that I could potentially sell. So that gives me the visibility and allowing me to move forward. Now, one thing that I also offer whenever I'm looking at the inquiry screen, I think of it as read-only access, and this is generally what salespeople have access to, and it prevents folks from going in and making changes to inventory, where inventory gives you a little more access to those things. Let's get to the next step. Let's say we've now created a sales deal. We've gone into leads, quotes, and deals, and we've generated a quote. We've generated a deal. With the inquiry screen and with multi-store visibility, it does allow me to generate a deal, a lead, a quote. In fact, it allows me to even print paperwork and collect a deposit on a unit that's not quite in my physical location yet. But how do we get that unit into our physical location? Well, we do a major unit transfer. So that also lives in the sales menu. And if I select major unit transfer, I'm going to see a little bit of a split screen view. My incoming major units at the top, my outgoing major units at the bottom. And just to highlight on my screen, I've got a store column that's over on the left side, from store at the top, to stores at the bottom. What's the difference? If I'm requesting a unit from one of the alternative locations, I press my request unit button, and we can use those same search criterias like make or by model or by year, whatever it is I'm looking for. In this case, that Honda that I want to grab from the alternative Power Sports 2 store, for example. Select one of those items, and it'll populate a unit that's being requested from one of the alternative locations, and it shows up at the top. And it also alerts somebody at the other location that somebody in store A has requested an item from store B. So that person's now just gotten a text, an email, an alert in Lightspeed saying that that's happened. They then come into this screen, and they're going to click the Approve Transfer button, which gives the approval to move that unit from store A to store B. Once the approval comes over, the person in the originating store also gets an alert saying that that's happened, and they press the Complete Transfer button, and it moves that unit from store A to store B. One caveat that I will mention is it does not move the payable invoice. If there's a flooring invoice, a trade invoice, any kind of AP invoice attached to that unit, the invoice remains in the original store, and you can then transfer that invoice and payable should you want to do that. But with our shared accounting situation or our shared accounting capabilities, it may not be necessary to do. So we'll talk about that in a moment. So now that we've talked a little bit about major unit visibility and transfer, one other caveat that I'll offer, a little bit of a bonus round when it comes to major unit transfers or major unit visibility. Sometimes I'll get the question, well, what if I'm using my mobile application? Can I see boats, RVs, motorcycles in one of my sister stores from the mobile? The answer is you can. Press your major units button on your mobile application. You can use those same search criteria that we used on the desktop a moment ago: color, year, make, model, whatever it is. Select the product type. Notice there's an all stores toggle. And if I want to see, does this unit exist in all of my stores, I can click that all stores and it shows me every unit regardless of location that qualifies based on my search. So keep that in mind if you're using the mobile application a lot in your business. Let's talk about the next feature. Parts warehouse locator. I mentioned before I was a parts guy for 16 years, so parts is near and dear to my heart. Started working behind a parts counter in 1995, and in many ways I still think of myself as a parts person, and locator is one of my favorite elements of Lightspeed. Back in when I was using the parts module behind the parts counter of a dealership back in the Stone Ages, we did have a parts locator tool. Now, there weren't as many solutions there, weren't as many returns on the search as they are today. The returns are significantly more than they used to be. But even back then, I was getting calls from dealerships that would say, hey, Lightspeed says you have this part in stock. Would you sell it to me? Or I needed to find a part from another store or one of my warehousers, one of my wholesalers, and I could use the locator to find those things. Still can do that to this day. So let's take a look at what that means in the Lightspeed world for 2025. So let's go back into parts, and I'm going to open up a parts invoice point of sale screen. And let's imagine that a customer walks up to the counter and says, hey, Brian, I need to buy this from you. I need this fan belt. Go ahead and sell this to me. And while I'm here at the counter, maybe tell me if you have a tire in stock for my Goldwing. Do you have a Dunlop 402 in stock? So I go ahead and plug that part number onto the screen. Maybe I look it up in my Parts Unlimited catalog, or maybe I happen to know the part number, which I do off the top of my head. Description for the tire comes up on the screen along with pricing, but the bad news is, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, I don't have that tire in stock. I can't sell you something I don't have, but I could special order that tire for you. Now, the customer is generally going to reply with, well, how long is that going to take? Because I could just as well go home and order from Amazon these days. The bottom of the screen, the green light for warehouse, dealer, and store locator has just lit up, telling me, does my wholesaler, third party, or OEM have it on their shelf, and what warehouse is it located in? Now, folks, I'm talking to you from Salt Lake City, Utah. Nevada, Sparks, Nevada for Parts Unlimited is 1 day away from me, so I'll have that tire here tomorrow, Mr. and Mrs. Customer. But what if it's back ordered or discontinued, or maybe it's something that I just can't get from a supplier that is showing me supplier data? Well, here's some dealerships that use Lightspeed in my city, state, town, or somewhere in North America that have that part on their shelf, and it gives me an indication of where I can get that part from a fellow Lightspeed store. Now, in terms of multi-store capability, I can also see, well, my east side store doesn't have the tire, but my west side store's got one. Mr. and Mrs. Customer, I'm going to have that here later for you today. So we'll let you know as soon as that tire comes in, but I'll have it this afternoon. And it gives me the ability to enlist that new transfer function, which Quentin's going to talk about that a little bit later. But the beauty here is it lets me answer the question of how long, and it gives me the information right away. One of my favorite parts of Lightspeed. That's why I love it. So let's talk about the next thing. And the next piece is shared financials, customers, accounts receivable, bill pay management, and all the things accounting. So let's look at some financial reporting. Let's look at paying the bills regardless of what store it came from. Let's talk about accounts receivable, maybe even sending a statement out based on a customer record, maybe even send them a click to pay link so they can pay down their AR balance with a credit card through the internet. Let's talk about some of those things. So let's jump into Lightspeed here. And we're going to start our kind of walk around the room in financials by going to general ledger. And I'm just going to simply pull up a profit and loss report and indicate a couple of elements that kind of speak to the multi-store experience. It's a profit and loss statement. And as I pull up this dashboard of selections in the profit and loss world, I can pick and choose what fiscal year do I want to report on. Let's do 2025. Let's pick on October because, gosh, it's almost Halloween. I can't believe it. And let's do a little year-over-year comparison. I'm not just going to focus on October of this year. I also want to see how we were doing October of last year and just see if we're trending in a positive direction. Are we doing better this year? Gosh, we hope so. Now, the multi-store piece is right over here on the right side of the reporting screen. Notice I can select store 1, store 2, or both. And if I've got more than 2 stores, I can certainly select more than 2 stores. In this particular report, I've just got 2, but sky's the limit there. So when I press the Generate Report button, now I'm seeing details related to October of 2025 and October of 2024 and store 1 and store 2. As I look at the consolidated portion of my profit and loss, I'm looking at October of this year compared to October of last. Operating expenses, personnel costs, overall profit and loss for both locations, my overarching business in one report. That shared financial piece. Pretty cool. Now, if I just want to see one of the stores, I don't have to look at them both at the same time. I can just pick the one store and run my report. Come on, there we go. And I'll get reporting data related to just that one location. Now, in addition to that, you may also know, if you've used our profit and loss tool before, you can also see a breakdown by department. I can see my new vehicle sales. I can see my used vehicle sales. I can see parts and service as standalone profit centers, but ultimately I can pick and choose which store I want to see, or a combination of stores with our shared financial tool. Let's talk about paying some bills. So we're going to go over to the payable side of the system, pay invoices, and we're going to pay some bills. But first, we're going to talk about how they got here and why they're here and where they came from. As I open up this screen, some of you may be familiar with it. For those that aren't, what I see at the top of the screen is a list of companies I need to pay. Parts companies, flooring companies, maybe individuals that did pinstriping on a gas tank in our service department. Well, let's pick and choose some of the vendor names: ABC Window and Body, and let's get Ariens, let's get building insurance. And as I do that, notice some details start to follow at the bottom of the screen. What I really want to key in on are 2 elements. One is my store column that indicates what store did that invoice generate in, store 2 or store 1. Or if I really just want to highlight the payables or the bills that are due for store 2, I can select from the drop down, pick store 2, and now I don't see the store 1 stuff at all. So those bills are a reflection, as you may know, of what's happening on the sales, service, and parts side of the business. But nonetheless, when it's time to pay the bills, if I just need to pay store 2, I can make those selections, click the Pay All Selected button, and pay accordingly. So kind of an interesting perspective on multi-store bill paying, the unfortunate side effect of business, right? We got to pay the bills. Well, let's talk a little bit about your customer lists and receivables. And I'm going to dive right into receivables, where it's pulling information about your customers. So all the customers that live in store 1, store 2, 3, and 4, and so on are not only visible from one customer list in the system, but they're also being shared to your receivable list in receivables. Let's go into customer inquiry for a moment. We're going to pick on this goofball, Mr. Tierney here, and search for his information, and we can see a little bit of detail related to what's been charged to his account. First, I can see what the balance due is, what Mr. Tierney owes us based on what he's charged, what his available credit line is, and I can see a series of items that have been charged. He bought a motorcycle from us, put it on his account. That's pretty cool. Bought some parts from us as well. And if I have a question about what those parts are, or more importantly, maybe Brian says, I don't remember buying parts from you. Well, you can click on the blue hyperlink and it opens up the source document so that you can then send a copy via text or email to Brian, or print it, put it in an envelope and a stamp, and mail it to him. But nonetheless, it gives you the detail. Now, why I bring this up in this context is if Brian has done charges in different locations, well, we can see the store location. We can see store 1 is where he spends most of his time. That's what's showing up on the list screen. But if we've got other customers, like let's pick on Miss Linda Rich here for a moment. I think she spent a little money in each of our stores. We'll look at her record and I can see, looks like she's just got store 1 listed for now. But nonetheless, if I had additional charges, I'm going to see those different locations under her name as well. So last thing I'm just going to mention with receivables is now it's time to send out the payment, or send out the request for payment, the statement. If I go into reports and AR statements, I can generate those statements. I can then put those in an envelope with a stamp and mail it to my customers. We also have the ability to send it by email or text to the customers. And one of the cool innovations when it comes to making sure your customers are paying on time, we also can send them a link, our click to pay link, on that outbound message via text or email to the customer. Now the statement's going to look something like this. It's going to show what did the customer charge to their account, a little bit of a history and a backstory of what's on their account, business logo, customer details, some delicate phrasing like, Mr. Tierney, we'd like you to pay your bill. Hope you pay it on time this time. And we can also see the age of the balance and what the balance is. Now, when we send this out digitally, text or email, with the statement comes a link. Customer can click that link, enter a credit card bit of information into a safe, secure browser selection, and pay down their bill. And we feel like if you can make it easier for folks to pay their bill, they're more likely to pay. And that opens up maybe other opportunities for receivables in your business. So those are just some of the elements that you're probably currently using when it comes to shared financial, shared customer list. And as we transition into some of the new capabilities, I think you'll be excited about some of the new things that we're bringing to the fold. And I'm going to hand the rest of the conversation over to Mr. Quentin Rico.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. All right. Well, I'm really excited, you guys. Today, I get to bring you some information on our new multi-store premium features. So we have just updated the system. Yeah, I guess it was September when they released with some new features that we're really just trying to pour some gasoline on the productivity fire, right? We want to enhance your ability to do your job, really get the productivity juices flowing at your dealerships. So let me share here. And where we're going to start is with some features that someone actually noticed in the Q&A recently, which are some new lead management features that we've added. So one thing that we hear all the time is that it can get difficult to switch between stores. We want to have more visibility so that we can manage our leads and get them in the right hands at the right time, right? It might be a situation where, let's say we have a few salespeople who call out that day, right? And they're both at the same location. You have leads coming in, and those leads might not be able to get followed up on because you are missing headcount. Well, what's the best solution in that situation? Well, right now there is a way that you can move those leads manually, but this just automates that process with a list view that's going to allow you to see those leads, quotes, and deals that you have across stores. So high level visibility. And then on top of that, you're going to be able to transfer those leads. So let's switch over to Lightspeed here, and I'll show that to you. All right. So over in Lightspeed, you're just going to go to Sales, Leads, Quotes, and Deals. And yeah, someone actually spotted this just earlier while Brian was going around, and there is a drop down now for store in this list view. You can see you can select all stores or any particular store you're wanting to take a look at. So I'll select all stores here. And then from there, you can see your list of leads, quotes, or deals, whatever you have checked. And then you can select a lead and send it to the location where you think it's going to be best followed up on, whether that's by a specialist salesperson or just someone who is available, right? So you do that by highlighting that lead, hitting the lead transfer button up at the top, and then it's going to ask you some specifics. Which store do you want to transfer it to? What stage is this lead in? Maybe you want a particular salesperson, or maybe you just want to throw it into the round robin, let whoever is up next at that dealership follow up on it. Along with that, we have a notes section so that you can write some notes in about that lead if there's anything specific that the person needs to know. And then once you have that information in, you'll just hit transfer and that moves over to the other store. Awesome. And then when you want to take a look at what leads have been transferred, there's also a new checkbox over here for transferred leads. So just a little more visibility on that so that you can always get those leads where they need to be. Nothing is falling through the cracks. All right. The next feature that I want to talk about is our standard job transfer here. So if anyone isn't familiar with what standard jobs are in Lightspeed, standard jobs are kind of our template jobs that you can save within the system so that when you have something common come through for a certain make or year, just regular jobs where it's going to be the same entry for parts and labor over and over, you can store those in the system. Now, the question is asked, hey, well, if we add another location, what are we going to do with all these standard jobs that we have? We take time to build these out. Well, now we can copy those standard jobs over from one location to another. So even if maybe the issue is that you're opening up a new product line at a new store, right? Now I can take those standard jobs from one store that I have stored for that product line and move them right over to the other, and it's going to have those parts and labor already there. So we'll move over to Lightspeed and take a look at that. Right. There we are. I'm going to go to Service, Lists, Standard Jobs here. And you'll see that there's a new button that's been added to the top of the Standard Jobs area over here. So you can see it says Copy to Stores. So I'll click on that. And it's going to give me some filters so I can select which jobs I want to copy over to my other store. So I'll just keep the filters as they are here, and that's going to give me my list of standard jobs. If it's just one particular job that you're looking for, you can search that by name, select it, and then you're going to select the store that you want to copy those over to. So I'll select all of them here, and then you can see that copy button down at the bottom. So we're really thinking that this is going to save people a lot of manual entry time that they would otherwise spend rebuilding those jobs from store to store. And yeah, really great feature here. It's going to save you a lot of time, give you a lot of time back to do other things that you need to do. All right. Find my mouse here. Get back over. And then the final feature that I get to bring to you today is that much awaited parts inventory transfer feature. Now, this is a streamlined method for parts transfer between locations. There is a method right now that we have in our knowledge base that you can use to transfer parts. This is just streamlined, right? So the creating another store as a vendor, all the invoices associated with that, this is that simplified. So we do think that, you know, when you're using your parts locator that Brian brought to you earlier, and you see that you have a part at another location, and you know, if I can just get this transfer going quickly, then I can get this done. This is a good solution for you, right? That is just an evergreen problem, getting inventory to where it needs to be, right? So let me show you what we have here now. I'll move over to Lightspeed. I'm going to go to Parts, and you'll see that there is a new selection here for Parts Transfer. So here you can see that there's a couple of outgoing part transfers that I've already queued up, but you can add parts as well. So if there was a part that I wanted to send over to a certain location, I could select that, select where I wanted that part to go, which store, the PO number associated with it. And it is going to, oh, I've already got that one in the queue. I'll just increase the quantity here. But you can see that quantity went up for that part that I've already added. So I know I'm going to get more than just that one that I already had. And then you're just going to check the boxes for which ones you want on that PO, hit approve, and send them over to your other store. So just a simplified process for parts transfers here, handles the accounting on the back end. A really great move in terms of efficiency for parts transfers and making your lives easier. Let's go back now, and we'll round things off. Just, you know, want to wrap things up here just with a quick recap of how Lightspeed has been doing this a long time. We've been thinking about multi-store dealerships and the unique problems that they face. And, you know, even though there are currently ways to get everything done in these multi-store premium features today, we really want to give you the option to have something that boosts your efficiency in your dealership. And that's really what we're bringing you with these new features. And we do also plan on adding more to these multi-store premium features as well. So in conclusion, you know, we've covered inventory management with major unit transfers, our sales lead visibility and management with these new premium features to give you high visibility if you have something like a business development center where you really need to make sure those leads hit the right place, our shared financials, so you get a very high level understanding of your business and the accounting that is going on everywhere, where you're profitable. Shared standard jobs, simplify your life, right? Make it easy to have consistency across your stores, and parts of it, availability and inventory management made simple now with our parts transfer feature. Brian, is there anything you want to add in conclusion here?
I think you covered all the bases, Quentin. You knocked it out of the park today. Thank you for co-hosting with me. It's been amazing to have you.
Yeah.
Great conclusion. I guess the last thing that we'll just maybe mention is ways to connect with Lightspeed. We would love to invite you to our YouTube channel where you can follow news about Lightspeed. We will be releasing this webinar on our YouTube channel soon, so you can review it or share it with other colleagues in your store if you'd like to. We're also bringing out content from our fellow customers and sharing their stories and their experiences on our YouTube channel. So we recommend that you take a look. You can also follow Lightspeed on LinkedIn and Facebook, where we're putting new content, news about Lightspeed, and news about our customers and the industries on a daily basis. And of course, if you do have questions about anything you've seen today, certainly feel free to reach out to our sales department. We've got agents standing by to help answer any questions you may have. But at this point, Quentin, Vaughn, Diana, let's see if there's any questions that we can answer with the group today.
Yeah, awesome. There's been some great questions, and thank you, Vaughn, Quentin, Brian, for a great presentation, for answering questions. I think even when we're talking about multi-store, one of the things that it's really sparked too is even some of the functionality within our accounting module. You know, if you've got multiple stores, it makes your P&L and your balance sheets even more complex. And, you know, Vaughn, I know that I'm going to make sure Vaughn's camera's back on here, that Vaughn, you also did just let everybody know too that there is some new functionality even that's coming out in November release. So I don't know if you want to speak about that a little bit too, Vaughn.
Yeah. So with as far as with the profit and loss, Diana, is that?
Yeah, exactly. Because I
Yeah.
know people are asking about the really good eyes on this webinar. I'm like, people are finding all the new lines. It's like there's a variance and so forth. So I love that people are paying attention to those details.
Yeah. So in the profit and loss report, we've added some new reporting function. This is on the canned profit and loss report, and this is there's some comparisons which we've added 3 of them: the difference, the variance percent, and proportion percent. And depending on which predefined format you select, those are available. You know, if you're comparing like a month, 1 month this year with a month last year, you're going to see the difference in the variance, and then the proportion percent. But yeah, so those are available to all dealers, just to help give you more visual, more information, more details on that P&L report. And we are starting to work on some multi-store features for the P&L, which I had mentioned in one of the chat comments here, one of the Q&A comments, that we're going to have the ability to compare between stores, have the stores in different columns, and be able to get these same comparisons, like difference between store A, store B, and the variance percent, proportion percent. So that multi-store functionality, we're starting to work on that now in development. So yeah, that's really exciting. That'll be a future release. So
Awesome. Thank you, Vaughn. And I did just drop into the chat for everybody too. There's a link to the Lightspeed November release details, so you can see the release notes, and there's also a video. There's also in that chat for everybody just a link to our multi-store premium functionality, which is a great tool. Like post-webinar, you want to share this information with somebody else at your dealership, you can grab that link out of the chat right now, and then you can pass it on to your other team members as well. Okay, Quentin, Brian, Vaughn, I know there's a lot of other questions out there. Maybe we want to address some of those that have just come in too. So I'll let you guys kind of pick the ones that we're seeing the most frequently out there, and I'll take a look as well.
Maybe I'll just grab one of the questions I've seen a couple times. Folks are saying that they're not seeing some of the functions that we brought up in today's webinar. There's 2 things to consider whenever it comes to new functions. There's also new permissions that are attached to those functions. So there's a very good chance that maybe your permissions have not been turned on to allow you to see or access those things. That's one thing to consider. Or the second thing to consider when it comes to the premium multi-store features, they are licensed. So if you do have full permission to see everything, you're the owner, you're the general manager, the controller, and you're like, oh, I have permission to everything, but I still don't see it. reach out to your Lightspeed account rep and they'll go through the licensing with you and make sure that those licenses get turned on.
I love that. And I did just put into the chat too, if it's easier, if you don't know who your sales rep is, there's just a link to our request a demo, and that will get you directly connected with our sales reps as well. Just put in there in a comment that you're interested in the multi-store premium, and that will help us, route it faster to the right person. You guys are familiar with routing leads that come in, you want to get it to the right person in the right way. So that's a great one to address, Brian, because there's definitely been multiple questions on that.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I'm seeing some questions that folks have had some challenges with the copy of standard jobs from one location to the other. And I guess we'd probably like to take a look at that with you. What I'd recommend is considering that these might be specific to your location, your store, the nuances are sometimes variable. I would recommend reaching out to tech support, which on the slide there, you'll notice the number 800-521-0339. And somebody from tech support can take a look at those things with you and see if there's an issue that we can address. Without really seeing the issue, it's kind of hard to answer the question as to what might be happening, but in a perfect world, they should transfer without any issue. So we'll be happy to take a look at those with you.
Yep, that's a good one.
It
Quentin,
looks
I know
like
you
there's
had
some questions about the parts transfer feature, whether it has some receiving component associated with it. And yeah, let me actually share my screen here again, and maybe I can talk about it a little with you. All right. So with this new parts transfer feature, the way that it's going to work is there is that approval process, which is going to attach those parts to a PO. And then it's going to go over to that other store where they will receive those as a PO. So know that that's how these are going to come over to your other system. And you can see those incoming parts here, but they are attached to a purchase order.
Great. I know you guys are feverishly reading and typing too. I was trying to think there was quite a few about just the premium features. And yes, there is something you need to make sure that you connect with people to understand kind of just what's available there as well. I'm trying to think there was another kind of category. I would think it was more at the P&L, and maybe Yvonne has answered some of those too. Let me see.
Yeah, it looks like there's a lot of questions just about how do we access some of those features. Like Brian said, make sure you talk to your account rep for any of these premium features. They are an enhancement.
Yep, it's a great way to look at those. And I think we've seen this too. It's like people are very excited about the features. It certainly has simplified and streamlined when you have more than one store. I mean, the parts transfer is probably the biggest one that we've just heard, very preliminary but exciting kind of comments from our dealers who are using those new features. So certainly encourage you to look at those as well. Any other key areas you guys are seeing that we want to address in the live Q&A?
I'm just addressing a question which I think this person that's asking the question is an old friend of mine, Angie. The question is, what about the shared customer list? Well, if you have shared accounting, you should also have a shared customer list. And hopefully that answers your question. If you're not seeing that, maybe I'll get on a call and talk to you about that. But shared customer lists are included with the shared accounting experience, whether you have the premium multi-store or not.
Yep, good. Excellent. Well, I know we're running kind of against time too, so we appreciate everybody who joined today. Hopefully you've learned a few new things about some exciting functionality that will really help you be more efficient in how you manage your multiple locations. We're excited to get this out to market, and as Vaughn has mentioned before, there's more to come. I mean, it's exciting to see what's kind of on the roadmap too. So again, probably next step is to really reach out, talk to your sales rep. If you have other specific questions, like when we've talked about these too, really encourage you to also contact tech support. If there's, things that you think you should be able to see and aren't working, please contact tech support. So appreciate our panelists' time today and appreciate everybody attending today's webinar, and hope you guys have an awesome day. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.